How'd Stefan and Oba get through from yesterday?
Okay for Oba. This weekend's still too early for him. We want to make sure when he comes back he's 100% right. So he was a little bit sore from yesterday, but still making progress. Stefan continued to advance today. Yeah.
Touched on a little bit this weekend, but how do you think the midfield performed in sort of the different kind of formation, specifically Roldan and Freeberg?
I thought the midfield was fine. I thought our midfield was fine in terms of I think our ability to keep possession against Colorado was good. Our ability to hold on to the ball, we had a better rhythm than we did against Chicago. So I think we're fine. We're talking about the final 30 yards of the field. It's got to be a little sharper, a little more quality, create a few more chances.
Any position yet to say if Oba or Frei would be playing this weekend?
No, Oba's definitely not going to be playing this weekend. With Frei, we're still deciding.
I know you never want to rush, but has Perkins' performance in any way made it easier to give Frei an extra week?
Troy's played well. That's the reason we signed him, and he's played well. So it allows us to give Frei the time he needs. For sure. And he's a quality goalkeeper, and we're not worried if Stefan can't play. That Perkins has to play is not a problem for us.
Have you sort of through your career, good, bad, indifferent, noticed any sort of difference when a player goes up against a former team, as Perkins would be if he goes this week?
Sometimes there's like extra motivation there for sure for the player. And you can see it maybe in their step. They're just a little more focused. I think it's more focused than maybe energy sometimes. It's just a focus.
Would you say the same about Lamar, especially since he scored a goal the last time he played?
Possibly. He was there. When you look at his whole career, he was there for a pretty short period of time. Again, like I say, I'm sure there's a little bit more focus as well. But the coach who had you there and who traded you is not there anymore. So it's a different situation with Troy. It's Frank was the coach. At the point when they decided to change in goal, and so there might be a little more focus for him.
A little bit off topic here, but I'm working on a story about your guys' fitness program. And in the last 2 years with all this data and everything else, was there a turning point for you where you really started to take what they were doing seriously and maybe the numbers that they're providing you with or anything like that?
That's a tough one to answer because the thing is for me, it's always does the objective data support what you're seeing subjectively? I've never been a person who just looks at the data and says, well, okay, that makes him a good or a bad player.
Yeah.
That doesn't make him a good or a bad player. So you're looking at whether the objective data supports what you see subjectively, what you sort of see, hey, looks like he's running a little bit less or whatever, he's not covering as much ground, then all of a sudden you look at the data, you see that is in fact the case. But sometimes, you can run all you want if you can't trap a ball. It's still like the old Harry Redknapp line, a bowl of pasta is not going to make him a better passer. And it's the same thing. You can do all the running you want in the world and have the fittest guys and the fittest team, but if they can't pass and make decisions at the right moment at the right times, you're not going to have a very good team. So there's always that balance between the two. But for me, the data, we look at it, it's important for me to get, and you're really looking at subjectively, or does it objectively support what you see subjectively, and then you're also looking at trends a little bit. Are you seeing somebody trending up or trending down for whatever reason?
And having your own strength and conditioning staff, talking to some people around the league, you were maybe one of the first coaches that really embraced that in MLS. Has that always been sort of something you were open to and looking at these maybe innovative trends?
Well, I think I think you got to use the resources that are in hand. And I remember back to my first year as UCLA head coach, I was a bit of an anomaly because I hired a goalkeeper coach, and most teams didn't have a goalkeeper coach then. For years, I was the assistant coach for the USB national team, and I trained the goalkeepers. I was the goalkeeper coach, and so so I was doing that at UCLA before the national team was doing it, which had a lot more resources than I had. So I think there's certain things that require specialization, and I think certainly the emphasis upon fitness and the ability with the amount of games that guys play now, the speed of the game is much faster, than years and years ago. There were a lot of great players years and years ago. When you go back to Di Stefano and Puskás and all these guys from the heydays in the 60s and all of that stuff, but the game was slower, and so for them to play more games was not an issue. The game is faster now, and you have to be more aware of physiologically the toll it takes on players, and also in our league the travel, and so the more you can monitor that, makes you a better team.
Absolutely.
You guys leave for Montreal tomorrow. As far as travel, is this the toughest road trip of the year?
Yeah, it's the toughest one because you can't get there direct, and so you end up I think we fly to Toronto and then from Toronto to Montreal, and so you end up having you got to be at the airport by 6, and you don't get into Montreal till like 6:30 at night. So it's basically a lost day except for travel. You got to make sure you got your food properly, sorted away, and go from there.
Just keep your fingers crossed that it all goes smooth.
Exactly.
As you get ready to head to Montreal, what are your general thoughts on the Impact?
They've been a little bit up and down as a team, but certainly when they've played well and they had a great run in the Champions League, they've got talented players. That's for sure. Piatti, McInerney when he's on form. Maduro is a forward that you gotta be worried about because of his pace and his ability to get behind defenses. Romero's done well for them. They got a really solid defender in Simone that they added this year. So they've got a good team.
Piatti's kind of been on a streak these last few games. What sticks out to you about what he's been able to contribute?
He's just a good player. He's got good size. He's a good dribbler. He's got a good shot. So he's definitely somebody who keys their attack. The way they play, he's able to not have to play a lot of defense, and so he's available to join the attack at a moment's notice, and he does a good job of being prepared to lead counterattacks, and they're a very good counterattacking team.
The last time we were there, you guys played in Olympic Stadium. This time it'll be Saputo. Is there any difference with the two different stadiums?
Well, it's a huge difference because one's turf and one's grass. Just the size of the field as well. So it's a big difference.
Do you think that Saputo will play more in your favor than Olympic?
I hope so. Right now we're looking for that. Yeah.
Coach, hindsight, of course, is 2020, but are you happy with your depth up top with no more Kenny Cooper?
We're unhappy with the production of the players. I think they will tell you themselves that they're unhappy as well with their production at this time. The Kenny Cooper thing was one more of financial. As more than anything else. We're a salary cap league, and there were certain things that we could or couldn't do, and it was just not something that we could do at that time point. And he wanted the opportunity to go someplace where he could start, and in retrospect, Kenny wouldn't have been able to help us right now either because he's been injured almost the whole time he's been gone.
I don't know where Parsamane landed, but are there any cuts that you're regretting at this point? Do you think some other depth might have been
Again,
better
Parsamane was a little bit of his decision as much as ours. It was like our decision was this way. This is what would work in our cap. That was not something he wanted to accept. He wanted to get the opportunity to try with some other teams, and he had some trials. I think he had one with DC and one with somebody else, and didn't make either of their teams. So it's the end of the road. Can't look back. Got to look forward.